It is time for Payne. Max Payne. Look at these crisp cutscenes. That gray border that isn't black for some reason, because black levels are hard to do, I guess. Oh man. Epic. Yeah, I'm gonna skip that. Let's go ahead and try the tutorial. Oh, it's working at least somewhat right out of the box. You know, I saw that there were articles on how to get to run on Windows 10, so kind of expecting it to not work, but I guess we don't have to do many tweaks except for, air quote, remastering it, since they want to do some new work on these games. I will show you how to do some works on these games, and have a good time. A good bullet time. Ooh hoo hoo. Can someone pick up that phone? So something I didn't realize is apparently the game is not actually in widescreen, it's stretched. And also the sound is just completely busted. I thought that this was working a little bit better out of the box, literally just because it isn't crashing, but that's really about as far as you get. We absolutely need to apply some fixes because you don't hear anything here and I don't hear anything here also. This is not a weird editing thing. This is, oh, game no work. No sounds, no narration, nothing. Now, thankfully, thanks to the lovely community surrounding this game, we do have some ways of actually making the game work properly. And on top of that, we are able to install some enhancements. So if we look at this user's guide, DarkJE, they have compiled a big old list of different fixes. They have gone and put these all together in this forum, but also they have made an installer. Okay, so they made a complete installer for all the previous fixes and included the option of installing high-res textures. They have this all in one program that'll go ahead and go through it. If you've ever used Fallout Fixed, it's pretty similar to that. With that being said, if you don't feel comfortable using someone else's installer for mods, here is the list of all of the mods right here that you can just go ahead and you personally can go through and install them manually yourself. All right, so here we are at the default fix pack options. We are going to go ahead and hit full installation. If I hit custom installation, I'm pretty sure it's literally just going to be the same exact thing. Yep. So we want the fixes. I'm going to go ahead and include the high resolution textures. These are AI upscale textures combined with some handmade textures. It replaces most of the game textures. These resolution increases vary from 2x to 8x. This includes things like decals, blood, clothing, and even part of the interface. You want to have a dedicated graphics card to do this. Also, this comes with a fix to allow up to 4 gigs of system memory to be used by default in the fix pack, which will help run some of these higher end textures. So this is what it looks like by default. No fixes applied. As you can see, there are the black bars on here, and now we will go ahead and swap on over, and you can probably start to tell that the textures look a little bit better at a glance, but I will go ahead and show you still so you can actually cross compare. So right here, I have the image split up. Can you guess which one is which? You're really going to get the vibe of this from actually playing and like seeing everything in motion, but just from looking at the ground, you can probably pretty easily tell the right side is the one that has the textures. It still fits in with the theme really well. It's not some crazy new thing. It's not like this weird new shiny road or anything like that. It still looks like the original game. It just doesn't look like someone blurred it out. Next up, we have Startup Fix. The game doesn't like to talk to Windows 10, okay? DirectX 8, not a big fan of Windows 10, or maybe vice versa. Maybe Windows 10 doesn't like DirectX. All we know is things don't work right whenever DirectX is involved. So by default, there is a DirectX 8 to DirectX 9 wrapper. This is basically just going to make it do DirectX 9 type calls so that things like VSync will work, and so there aren't pacing issues with the game. This can cause events in game to be thrown off and not trigger at the right times. So we definitely want that in there. Now, the sound fixes, there are two. The first and default one converts the game sound calls while playing without modifying any of the files. Try this one first. If it doesn't work, go for the second one. The second one does modify the sound files before you play without the need of the wrapper. Just try to go for the first one. Same with the DirectX wrapper. If the first one doesn't work, try the second one, but just try the first one. The first one for both of these should be fine. So this is what it sounded like before. Yeah, that's the sound of nothing. And now it's really loud and there's audio. Yippee. This game was originally 4x3. They have support for wider screens, but apparently it just stretches it out. This tries to make sure it does not look like a big old blob and that you aren't stretching your game, because that is bad. Please do not do that. So here is the game before we apply the fix. Just go ahead and look right down the center below where Max is at. See that brick wall with the door? Pay attention to that. Now see how it looks much less wide? We didn't shrink everything, we just made the field of view appropriate. Everything isn't stretched anymore. So I'd say this worked very well. Also, I'll swap back, even the UI, look at the way that just the text is, where it says, welcome to a short tutorial. Like, it just fits in a lot more appropriately. Also, there aren't black bars, which is pretty nice. Next up, there's a fix for AMD Ryzen 3. Just go ahead and install this. There are CPU calls that the game makes, that the new Ryzen systems that just kind of mess it up. It's okay if you don't have an AMD Ryzen system, just go ahead and install it. And then we have support files, so you can use some of these older Visual C and DirectX versions to get everything running and ensure proper compatibility. Let's go ahead and hit next. And right here, I will hit next. This is just going to go ahead and install our fixes. Again, if you want to reference any of these files that are being installed, there is a little intro up at the top of this forum post that'll let you know exactly what you're installing and where you can manually download it. And there we go, that's it. So by default, after you install the extra textures, if you go ahead and go to your options whenever you launch the game, you can see right here that they actually don't have the settings cranked out. That is because the game will sometimes run out of memory. But you can definitely try to bump these up. And if your game crashes, just go ahead and go on back down to medium. I'm just gonna stay at medium by default. I think that'll be plenty, especially relative to the original textures. I'm just gonna keep it at that. Something else you can notice right here on the forum post is they do not have anti-aliasing on. The reason for that is because they're going to be doing their own special thing to be able to get the best image quality possible, and I will show you how to do that. I suppose before we get there, I should go ahead and explain the basic settings. Make sure you have your video card selected, then pick your screen resolution or pick the resolution that you desire to play in, and then the X32 is actually talking about your color depth. So I definitely would recommend doing 32 instead of 16 or whatever other options you may have. Then right here we have hardware acceleration or we have software. You're going to want to go ahead and use hardware. And then this other option that we're going to be doing is actually not in this at all. We are going to go to our NVIDIA control panel. If you're on AMD, I'm sorry I don't have an AMD card. I can't show you what to do. But if you have an NVIDIA card, hey, guess what? You get to see how I do it. So here we go. All right, so once we have the control panel open, this is by default. If you right click on your desktop, it'll give you change resolution. We want to go to manage 3D settings. And from here, we are not going to be messing with global. We are going to go to program settings and we're going to add Max Payne right here so we can mess with it individually. And guess what? It already popped up here. So I will go through to here, and what we're going to want to do is we want to go to the Antistrophic filtering and we want to crank that bad boy up. We also want to go to the texture filtering and we want to have off, clamp, the quality. We want to use high quality, and then we want this on. Now you may be wondering, wow, this didn't do anything with anti-aliasing. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. So I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know why the forum post didn't address that. I will jump into game and see if I need to turn it on or if there's any difference between having it on and off. Ah, they got me. There's a different section that has something called anti-aliasing. I don't know why they didn't just put it in there. All right. Okay, so what we want to do is in the game launcher, we want to go to options and set anti-aliasing to 2x. Maybe this activates it or something. Having it at the lowest allows us to modify it, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, in here, we're going to go to where it says anti-aliasing right here. And we want to go to mode and enhance the application setting. Okay, so this is modifying how they're doing it already. Then we want to go to setting. It's already at 2, but we actually want 8. And then we are going to super sample, which should actually do quite a bit. Now, unfortunately, the way that Max Payne handles its anti-aliasing sometimes just does not work right. Sometimes makes everything look really weird, gives white outlines. So people have decided a good way to fix this is to use the NVIDIA Profile Inspector. There's a link to GitHub to download this. Once you have it open, I will type in Max Payne. We will click on this, and I am just copying the anti-aliasing settings that they have on here. Basically, we want to scroll down to section 3, which is all about anti-aliasing. And we want to go to here and change this. So what they have selected here is 4x4 super sampling D3D only. And that apparently is enough to fix it. And you can go ahead and hit apply changes. And guess what? That's the end of the article. So we are now, we're pretty ready to play, I think. Now, I know some people are going to ask about reshade and changing the lighting. Honestly, I prefer to play the game without that. That's not really something that I want to do, but I will show you how to do very basic reshade. If you just look up Max Payne reshade, you will find a ton of people showing off different settings. But in game, what we're going to want to do is hit the home key, and you just hit Control Tab to cycle through the different presets they have. I have auto enabled all of the things that I have the option to. If you're following along with someone else's tutorial, they're going to be a little more helpful than this. You're going to be able to like actually kind of see what you're supposed to be doing if you aren't super familiar with this. But if I want to turn on something, let's see, what's something simple like blooming HDRI, I will go ahead and turn that on. And immediately you can tell it brightens everything up, and it kind of changes the way the lighting looks a little bit. That's your gist of what your shaders are going to do, is it's just going to mess with your lighting a little bit. It'll make your screen look a little prettier in some ways, but it's going to kind of mess up the balance of how the game was meant to be. Like, you can already tell my UI is glowing in the bottom right. I mean, I can live with that, but I don't really feel like it enhances the game enough for me to want to change the look of it, so I'm not going to do that. With that being said, here's how you get reshade. Literally just go to the reshade website, hit download. It'll tell you how to download it. Once you open it, it'll look something like this. All you're going to do is you're going to type in Max Payne, search for it. Probably don't want the test out, probably want the actual game. Then we'll hit next. What I used made DirectX 9 calls, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. As you can see, I already have it installed, but it should basically just tell you, hey, these are the things that you can install. What do you want to install? If you don't know which things you want to install and you have a bunch of time on your hands, just check them all. Just check them all. Go ahead and hit next, and you'll have a ton of options you can just turn off and on and kind of learn exactly what you want. And here we are. This is the final product. This is at very least how I want to be running around and playing the game. You very well may want to have some different settings, and that's totally fine. The great thing about this game and playing this game now instead of waiting for this remastered, this new version to come out, is that the mod support in the community is just so big for this game. Like, there's so many weird mods that you can get for here, and the amount of just a new life you can bring into this game should not be overlooked at all. I think I'm going to get hit by a train, so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you for watching. See you guys